Democrats are hoping that disaffected Republicans, suburban women and black and Latino voters will help them clinch Pennsylvania's 20 electoral votes. This would mean they avoid a sequel to Donald Trump's unexpected victory there in 2016. But the initial trends portray a completely different picture. Pennsylvania epitomizes the divisions, loyalties and shifting political currents of the 2020 presidential race. The battleground state where 4 years ago President Trump narrowly became the first Republican to win a presidential contest since 1988 is once again balanced between staunch Republican loyalty in its rural center and a resurgent Democratic Party in its urban and suburban areas. 69% of the estimated vote total has now been reported, and as of now the figures show Donald Trump leading with 56.5% votes and Joe Biden with an approximate 42%. Wisconsin has 10 electoral votes to give. There is a narrow Biden lead there on the strength of heavily Democratic ballots. With the window closing for Trump, he has 49.1% of the vote share, while Biden is leading with 49.4% of the votes. In 2016, Donald Trump became the first Republican presidential candidate to win Wisconsin since 1984. He narrowly defeated Hillary Clinton by roughly 23,000 votes. Now it is among the election's swing states. And polls have suggested that entering election day, Wisconsin has been tilting considerably in Biden's favor. In Georgia, once again, Trump is leading with 50.5% of the votes, while Joe Biden is behind with 48.3% votes. On the other hand, in North Carolina, with 94% votes counted, Trump is leading with 50.1% votes, while Biden is falling behind with 48.7% votes. In Michigan, Trump and Biden are locked in a close contest with 49.3% and 49.1% respectively. Michigan has 16 electoral votes up for grabs. Trump has made as many as 8 trips to Michigan for campaign events since the start of last year, with 2 of those stops coming right before Election Day. While Biden has made 4 trips to Michigan since he locked up the Democratic nomination, including stops with former President Obama on Saturday. But Donald Trump has declared victory, even as the votes are being counted. He says that he wants to go to the Supreme Court. He has accused the Democrats of trying to steal the election. His statement comes as crucial battleground states continue to count their votes. Trump has already declared that Republicans are ready for a big celebration. Listen into what he said.
For the good of this nation, this is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won. So I just want to thank you.
On the other hand, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has said that results may not be known till Wednesday morning. He urged the voters to be patient.
Hello. Good evening. Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long. But who knew we were going to go into maybe tomorrow? Every time I'd walk out of my grandpa's house up in Scranton, he'd yell, "Joey, keep the faith." And my grandma, when she was alive, yelled, "No, Joey, spread it. Keep the faith, guys. We're going to win this." Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your patience is great.
Now, President Trump and Joe Biden are locked in that razor-thin race in Wisconsin as vote counting stretches into the pre-dawn hours. America's eye is turning to the same Midwestern battlegrounds that decided the election 4 years ago. With nearly all votes counted in the state, Biden had a lead of less than 0.3 of a percentage point over Trump. That's the razor-thin margin we are talking about. It is narrow enough, though, to allow Trump to request a recount if it stands. Biden is ahead of Trump by fewer than 8,000 votes out of nearly 3.2 million casts. There are still a few thousand other votes waiting to be counted. Wisconsin, which has 10 electoral votes, it is among the swing states that could well determine the course of the presidential battle. Trump has 49.1% of the vote share, while Biden is leading with 49.4% votes. The outcome was close in 2016 as well. President Trump won the state by just a percentage point that year. Trump became the first Republican presidential candidate to win Wisconsin since 1984. He narrowly defeated Hillary Clinton by roughly 23,000 votes. This cycle, former Vice President Joe Biden is attempting to flip back. And polls have suggested that entering Election Day, Wisconsin has been tilting considerably in Biden's favor. Given how close the margins were in the 2012 election, several counties are seen as prime battlegrounds between Biden and Donald Trump. And among them is Kenosha County, the site of massive protests against police and racism, after Jacob Blake was shot by law enforcement officials earlier this year. President Donald Trump vowed to ask the Supreme Court to weigh in on the US's inconclusive presidential election if that happens. The Associated Press has not yet declared a winner, of course. AP executive editor Sally Busby brings us more on this developing situation.
The race is very close. These two candidates are battling to win. Either of them obviously could still win, and we will just be following the results as they come in, and the AP will declare a winner once one of these two candidates has actually gained the needed 270 electoral college votes. So the president said that he would take the election to the Supreme Court. It's not clear at this point what actual legal challenges he and his campaign would plan to make. So obviously we'll be just waiting to see what legal steps President Trump actually takes. What he said today was that he was going to take it to the Supreme Court, but it's not entirely clear yet what he means by that.
So this race to the White House is a nail-biter for sure. While U.S. President Donald Trump has announced victory even before the ballots have been counted completely, the fact of the matter is that counting is still underway in 5 key states, and that could very well decide the outcome of this election. We've explained why these swing states matter. Let's take a closer look at what the numbers say at this point. Wisconsin has 10 votes in the Electoral College. Biden has taken the lead. He is polling at 49.4% as compared to Trump's 49.1%. Now, this is a sudden narrow lead and is being very closely watched since Wisconsin is a key battleground state. On to Michigan now, which has 16 votes. Trump's lead 49.3% versus 49.1% for Biden. Another narrow margin. In fact, Trump's lead narrowing down to 0.2% in the state, and that's how razor thin this margin is. Moving on now to Pennsylvania, there are 20 electoral votes. Trump is polling at 55.8%. Biden currently standing at 43%. This margin, again, has been talked about as one of the game changers. Remember, this is a key state. We are getting ground reports in just a short bit from Pennsylvania as well. North Carolina is a crucial state to watch out for as well. It has 15 electoral votes. Trump's tally is 50.1% at this point, while Biden is trailing with 48.7%. But these numbers are changing with each passing hour, and which is why these battleground states prove to be game changers. There's Georgia as well, another state which is hanging in the balance. Georgia has 16 electoral votes, and Trump is again leading narrowly here with 50.5%. While Biden is trailing with 48.3%. But according to the exit polls, Trump's support eroding among the older voters and the white men. And that's another crucial aspect here. The polls show that Trump appears to have lost some support among the white men and older people in Georgia and Virginia. That's key parts of his voter base. While Trump is still winning the majority of those voters, some of them switched to supporting his Democratic challenger. Reuters polling editor Chris Kahn getting us more.
I'm Chris Kahn, Reuters polling editor. There's still a lot to go tonight. A lot of states have not been called yet. We are seeing in the state of Florida, it's very, very close between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Now, we know from the way that the state collects its mail-in ballots and the way, what we've seen in pre-election polls, that Democrats were going to be counted early. A much more Republican-leaning part of the electorate was going to be counted late. So I got to say, it doesn't look that great for Joe Biden right now, although I must say, state has not been called yet. It's very, very close. We are also seeing some broad trends in the electorate, stuff that we were expecting to see, but we're seeing it really play out in real time in some of the key battleground states. We were expecting to see an erosion in support for Donald Trump among some groups that he had expected to come out for him. We're talking about whites without a college degree, older voters. We're seeing, for example, in Georgia, Trump is getting about 7 out of 10 among all whites. That's down from about 8 out of 10 4 years ago. He's also getting about 5 out of 10 whites with a college degree in Georgia. That's down from about 7 out of 10 4 years ago. So he's still doing, getting the majority of these groups, but just not as well as he did 4 years ago. We're seeing Trump getting about 6 out of 10 whites without a college degree in Virginia. That's down from 7 out of 10 4 years ago. And so we're seeing, in general, this is a group that Trump had expected to come out for him. He's always been very popular with. But we were wondering ahead of the election how many of these folks were going to show up for him one more time. We're seeing that, at least in some of these states, they may not be showing up in force like he had been hoping for. One of the numbers that we're seeing right now from exit polls is Trump is getting about 5 out of 10 among Latinos in Florida. He's basically splitting the Latino vote with Joe Biden. That's much better than he did in 2016.
Now, Donald Trump earlier in the day has been emphasizing once again on what he's been saying earlier as well, that he wants to take this battle to the courts. And he seems intent on doing that. Now, he has been absolutely clear in his statement. Mail-in ballots should not be permitted beyond election day. Take a listen into what he said.
In a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list. Okay?
But the Biden camp is having none of it. Joe Biden's campaign manager has also released a scathing statement where he says that the president's statement about trying to shut down the counting of the duly cast ballots was outrageous, unprecedented, and incorrect. Now, the Democrats are also ready for a legal battle. What does the law say, though? Can President Trump legally stop the vote count? His own party lawyers do not seem to think so. This is what prominent GOP election lawyer Ben Ginsberg had to say. The issuing of the statement also coming at a very crucial point, just a short while after Trump made those remarks. These are all legally cast votes, and the process of trying to toss them out for some reason would just, I think, be viewed by any court, including the Supreme Court, as just a massive disenfranchisement that would be frowned upon. So that's the word coming in from within the Trump camp on this legal battle. That's a very important sentiment that we've been closely tracking. We are looking at days of high-octane political action in America, but the Biden campaign has also reacted to the president's comments. In a statement, the campaign said, and I'm quoting, "The president's statement tonight about trying to shut down the counting of duly cast ballots was outrageous, unprecedented, and incorrect." Now, the Trump campaign wants to take this fight to the courts. Biden's legal teams are also ready to be deployed if Donald Trump tries to halt the vote count. And earlier, we spoke to our correspondent, Sarah Walton, who is in Florida. Take a listen in.
Donald Trump eventually sort of eked ahead. It was eventually called with 51.3% of the vote for Donald Trump, 47.8% for Joe Biden. And actually that's Donald Trump extending his lead in Florida compared to the 2016 election. Really crucial announcement that announcement here in Florida, because had Joe Biden won here, it would have been game over for Donald Trump. There was pretty much no way he would have been able to gain the 270 electoral votes he would need to make it back to the White House for another 4 years. With a loss for Joe Biden here, I mean, it's not essentially over for him. There is still the potential that he could win thanks to the results in other swing states. But what we are seeing is with other places such as Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, they are taking far longer to count their ballots, particularly mail-in ballots that have come in. And so we are seeing this dragging out of the process, potentially onto Wednesday, later in Wednesday, maybe even later in the week, where we're going to get an idea of who it is that's won.
2020 has been one of the most divisive and unpredictable election years. Initially, 28 Democratic contenders took it upon themselves to take on President Trump, including 6 women, an openly gay candidate, and 2 billionaires. The race finally narrowed down to Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and since then, the country has witnessed racial unrest, violence, and a public health emergency, and desperate attempts to maintain or change the status quo. We're leaving you with this report, which takes a look back at the most pivotal moments of the 2020 presidential campaign. Stay tuned.
Biden is soft and weak and too scared to be president. He doesn't want to be president, let's face it.
You know, but most of all, who knows us?
Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden had a disappointing start in Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire primary. His fate changed when African Americans started supporting him in large numbers. Biden's performance in South Carolina made a number of his rivals drop out of the race immediately. In the 2016 presidential election, Bernie Sanders refused to concede to Hillary Clinton until the party's national convention. This year, Sanders dropped out of the race in early April, making way for his competitor Joe Biden to focus on the general election. Biden tried to include progressive voices in his campaign.
And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do, either through the skin.
During one of his daily briefings on COVID-19, Trump suggested that injecting bleach into the human body could eliminate the virus.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute.
This was a time when the world had already shut down due to the pandemic, and the death toll in the United States was inching towards the 50,000 mark. During the first presidential debate, Trump said that he was only being sarcastic. Washington was one of several cities where people held peaceful protests in the aftermath of the custodial killing of George Floyd. US Park Police and National Guard troops clad in riot gear used tear gas to disperse Black Lives Matter protesters from a park outside the White House. Moments later, Trump walked to the historic St. John's Church. He posed for a photo holding up a copy of the Bible. The image continues to haunt the Trump campaign.
Your next Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. Kamala, the floor is yours.
Joe Biden picked his former rival Kamala Harris as his running mate, a choice that many call safe and practical. Harris energized the Democratic base as she brought in big bucks from women, Californians, and all those who had earlier refrained from donating to the Biden campaign. Harris proved herself to be everything that the Biden campaign needed.
Please be seated. No.
The worst nightmares of liberals in the United States came alive when Justice Ginsburg died due to cancer. With her demise, a seat on the Supreme Court bench fell vacant. This unleashed a series of political theatrics that had never been witnessed in the history of the United States. Trump took the opportunity of a lifetime and appointed a conservative judge, Amy Coney Barrett, to the Supreme Court.
I'm not going to answer the question.
American voters and the world witnessed a shouting match in the name of the first presidential debate. The two candidates talked over each other and launched personal attacks. Trump did not even spare the moderator, Chris Wallace. Voters called the debate an embarrassing portrayal of the country's democracy. After downplaying the COVID-19 threat and holding crowded in-person rallies, Trump and a number of his aides contracted the virus. COVID-19, which was overshadowed by the Supreme Court row, became a central election theme all over again. Trump's diagnosis of COVID-19 kept him off the campaign trail for 10 days and did irreversible damage to his image. US election desk, WION World is One.